Hi, it's Chris with Implied Music. Every so often, I like to dive into some classical music. So today, it's Nirvana's "Smells Like Teen Spirit" from 1991. It's a classic tune, right? And iconically so, I think of it as sort of a classic piece. I teach it to my young teenage students, and what I love about it is its melody. And this month, I'm really keen on melody. The melody to Smells Like Teen Spirit has a very interesting relationship to the chord sequence. It exhibits all of the same really positive qualities that every good melody that we've looked at this month does. It's worth taking a look at, and it's just fun. It's just a fun piece, right? It may seem absurd to you to have the sheet music to "Smells Like Teen Spirit," but here it is. So we just be playing it on piano, and I'm not going to play the whole thing, but you know this tune, right? And you know this iconic chord progression. This is just a 4-chord cycle, and I'm not even really going to call them chords because really it's just about the fifths, right? And it either appears kind of clean or in a very distorted guitar sound. And that's, kind of where it lives. There's that thing that goes, right? A kind of a release at the end. But let's take a look, because now we really need to understand, why is this song great? Well, I think it's about how the melody sits in that chord cycle. And the chord cycle goes by so fast that it's almost like a riff. It's, you could call it a chord progression, but that's 2 beats at a fairly good clip. It's almost like a riff. And as a result, the melody really is the thing that we live with. So this melody grabs all the notes of the F natural minor scale. F Aeolian is what my computer analyzes it as. So it's not a pentatonic scale like we, were playing around with this past week, but it is just a really normal natural minor scale. And the melody begins on the 5th, leaps up to the 7th of the scale against a B flat chord. Now, if I play B flat here and add that E flat, you can see I've got B flat sus. The sus sound becomes a very important sound in this tune, as does the major 7th, as does the 9th. In other words, this melody emphasizes non-chord tones. Non-chord tone, chord tone, chord tone, non-chord tone. The C is the 9th of B flat. Non-chord tone, the C is the major 7th of D flat, and then we're going to live on this G. This G is the 9th of F. So we've picked out non-chord tones and emphasized them. They become the actual sort of like important notes of the melody. And as a result, it's this kind of energized and a little bit unsettling kind of sound. We can also point to the fact that rhythmically the melody is landing on offbeats ahead, anticipating, ahead of the chord progression, right? Always ahead. Let's scroll this down so we can see what happens next. So now we have kind of I guess you would call it a pre-chorus, right? Hello, 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 hello. So the chord progression doesn't change. The chord progression doesn't change in this tune at all. Hello, hello. So we were on the 9th, right? The G is the 13th or 6th of B flat. The G is the major 7th of A flat. The G is the 11th, the sharp 11th of D flat. and then it relaxes to the F. Now that is a great sequence, and it's the magic of the ninth, right? I've said this before. Here's my F Aeolian, and then the major second, or the ninth, is the sort of melodic tone that lives in there. So hello, hello, hello. So persistent, right? And now we're gonna pop up. And this is what I like to do when I'm playing it on piano. And I have to say, I sort of learned this from Ethan Iverson. The melody's going to be in parallel fourths, right? Or I'm going to add a fourth in the middle. So this first sound on D flat, the fourth is the C in the middle there. And then the B flat lives in there. And it just sounds strong and beautiful. I'm basically going and coupling my melody with that. But that fourth in the middle, that parallel fourth, is creating a kind of an energy, and it's a rock energy for sure, that gives us sort of a little extra thickness, and that thickness is crucial for the melody. So parallel fourths is almost like kind of an old-fashioned Gregorian chant vibe, right? Do you hear that? But when you play it against this pattern, it gets very strong. In this song, and I don't really need to spend much more time on it, in this song, the combination of the verses' use of non-chord tones, ninths, the major seventh, the fourth, the sixth, or 13th, and then that beautiful, strong melody, which goes back to essential tones in the chord, adding a sort of a parallel energy, is just very, very exciting. Now, I suppose it's worth noting that in the guitar part, we get this thing, and then there's that, right? So we just kind of establish the center tone of the F by using that little leap up there, that perfect fourth. And that perfect fourth stays there. It does different jobs in different chords. The fifth and the root, the ninth and the fifth, the third and the sixth, the major seventh and the major third. It does different jobs in different chords. And the same thing's going to be true of any melody, like the melody that we have here, where it feels like it's a repeated thing. Right? That repeated phrase does different things in different chords. This is an essential part of good, I guess I'll just say good melody writing, good pop songwriting, good rock songwriting. There's a limited number of notes available to us as we sort of make our melodies, and yet those melodic tones have different character depending on where they're placed in the chord and, in the chord cycle or in the kind of riff cycle almost. I think it's worth mentioning before we go that I suspect that Cobain did this intuitively, right? I don't think there's a real academic intent melodically here. I feel like it comes directly out of a feeling of the connection to the lyric and that sense of yearning and anxiety and energy that using non-chord tones can bring to a melody. But for those of us who aren't, geniuses, it's not a bad idea to understand the actual technical trick, right? So that when I feel stumped, I can ask myself, well, what would a non-chord tone do for my melody? Or how can I extend the emotional range of what I'm writing by extending the idea of a non-chord tone into this phrase? Well, Smells Like Teen Spirit is a great example of that. Listen, I hope this has been useful. Like and subscribe and ding the bell to get more of this stuff. And I'll see you next time.